Blanchett, particularly an actress I really admire.
Yeah, I saw this Monday as well. But yeah, I just saw it in a regular theater. I was surprised it was a third full. Way more people than I thought would be there on a Monday afternoon.
I think it's being considered a modest hit, at least in its opening. We'll see if it has any legs.
Cost $70 million to make. It's doing well overseas. It's made $60 million in 4 days global. It's going to at least break even. Is it good enough for Oceans 9? Time will tell.
Well, let's get into it. Arnie, give them the plot. We'll find out about the heist of Ocean's 8.
Sandra Bullock plays Debbie Ocean, sister to the now presumably deceased star of the first 3 films, Danny Ocean. Debbie is just finishing up a 5-year stint in jail for helping her boyfriend, Claude Becker, played by Richard Armitage, sell fraudulent art. Claude testified against Debbie and got off scot-free. Now Debbie is out and wants revenge and to hit a big score, so she calls up her partner in crime, Lou, played by Cate Blanchett, and reveals her plan to use the annual Met Gala to steal a Cartier necklace called the Toussaint, worth $150 million. To assist on such a job, they recruit indebted fashion designer Rose Well, played by Helena Bonham Carter, jeweler Amita, played by Mindy Kaling, hacker Nineball, played by Rihanna, pickpocket Constance, played by Aquafina, and fence Tammy, played by Sarah Paulson. The scheme is to have Rose become the dress designer for celebrity actress Daphne Kluger, played by Anne Hathaway. Can I just say how I hate this movie has Daphne and Debbie? It's confusing as fuck. Daphne's dress will be accentuated with the $150 million necklace. The job goes off nearly flawlessly. Tammy uses a 3D printer to make a cubic zirconium copy of the necklace. Lou poses as a nutritionist and taints Daphne's dinner at the gala. Constance pretends to be a waitress and steals Daphne's necklace. Amita pretended to be a dishwasher and set up a station in a restroom to cut the necklace into pieces. And each of the women walked out of the gala with part of the necklace on display as earrings or a bracelet. More, Debbie arranged it so Claude was Daphne's date to the gala, and they plant some of the stolen diamonds on the art dealer. But as the necklace was worth so much, insurance fraud investigator John Fraser, played by James Corden, gets to work. And Daphne has figured out what the women were up to, so she demands to be part of the crew, Ocean's 8th. In exchange for a cut, she will continue to help them frame Claude, who goes to jail for the theft, even though Fraser seems to know Ocean was the real culprit. And then in a final twist, Debbie reveals that she and Lou had stolen even more jewels. An exhibit of historical fashion of European royalty, including a lot of jewelry, was also on display at the Met. With the help of returning character acrobat Yen, played by Xiaobo Qin, they also replaced all those jewels with 3D printed fakes. Each of the 8 ladies gets over $30 million as their cut, and 7 of them live out their dreams while Debbie Ocean just goes to her brother's grave to sip a martini as credits roll.
That's right. Danny Ocean is dead. We learned that pretty early on, and I think it's...
Bull crap.
I think, it could be a ruse. We spend the whole movie waiting for a Clooney cameo that never comes.
I thought that martini was for him.
I thought for sure. I knew nothing about this movie going in. I didn't even see the second trailer that apparently spoiled the fact that Daphne Kluger becomes the 8th. I'm sitting in there, in my notes constantly I'm only counting 7. I'm only counting 7. Apparently the trailer revealed it, but I thought for sure there would be a handing of the baton. I knew about Gravity. I know Bullock and Clooney travel in the same circles. He's known to film secret appearances. He did it once or twice on ER, super secret last minute appearances where he came to help Juliana Margulies' character say goodbye and showed up near the end of the series, and nobody knew these scenes were coming until they aired. I thought we would see him, and they do play coy. Do you think he's really dead? Not really sure. It depends on if Clooney wants to come back ever, right? If he'll show up on the set, Danny's not dead, and if not, they've found a way to conveniently write him off. It's morbid, though. I mean, I like that old crew. I really do. I still have fond memories of them despite the 2 sequels.
It's really easy to remember that old crew, too, because they're going to open this movie the same way as that Ocean's 11. I've talked about this before. Don't remind me of a good movie if your movie's not going to be as good.
Yeah, opening in the prison with the parole and saying you're going to go straight, and this time it's Bullock instead of Clooney. Yeah, it's exactly the same opening, hitting the same beats. It's going to divert pretty quickly, but it is going to start with that same opening gambit. So I am disappointed Clooney did not come back for this.
But the era is gone. I mean, they were at the tail end of the whole swing dancing, cigar bar, remember the Rat Pack 90s era to begin with. That is dead. They have to do something different. One of the reasons why they couldn't reboot it 2018 is because there's no nostalgia for that era right now. You have to go with a different vibe.
And that was one thing I was wondering going into this, because I am a man, so if there's a whole kind of scene like that for women that would be reminiscent of what Clooney and that group brought to Oceans 11, I'm just not tapped into that. So I did feel like maybe there's something I'm not getting here, because at times I feel like they are just trying to do that Rat Pack thing again. Like, I feel like when Cate Blanchett shows up, oh yeah, she's obviously the Brad Pitt of this group. And I feel like, are they hitting those beats, or is there something I'm just missing? Like Housewives of Atlanta or something. I don't watch it. Maybe they're tapping into that. I don't know.
There were women in that Clooney trilogy. We just didn't like them. They could have written this so that Clooney got killed and Julia Roberts was going to avenge his death, right?
We don't want Tess coming back.
But that problem is that she was the worst aspect of those films. And it really is like Sandra Bullock finally wins, right? She was always in that battle about who's America's sweetheart, Coke versus Pepsi, Julia versus Sandra. Bullock gets it. She is more delightful in 2018 than Julia Roberts could ever hope to be.
I never knew that was a thing. I mean, Bullock really came out after Roberts' heyday.
She was the hanger-on. She was the Christina Aguilera to her Britney Spears.
I remember seeing Bullock in theaters in Demolition Man years after Pretty Woman was out, and Speed was her breakthrough.
Yeah, Roberts had about a 5-year head start on the title, and then, here comes this upstart to take her crown, and they were locked in a battle. I mean, I don't know that it was ever like a tabloid thing where they genuinely didn't like each other. My impression is Sandra Bullock is very easy to get along with and likes everybody. But the perception of star power, it seemed like Bullock always was second stringer. Julia got her Oscar first. Julia had the parts picked over, and whatever she didn't take could go to Sandra. I would argue at this point, the fact that Sandra Bullock can lead this team means that she is the bigger star now. And I like her more. I mean, she just seems more friendly. I've never thought Bullock was a great actress. I don't believe she deserved that Oscar, but I wouldn't deny it to her because she just comes off as very appealing. She's a very likable personality, and that holds her here.
I never want to see Crash or The Blind Side, but yeah, give me a choice between Bullock and Roberts. I'm going to go with Bullock.
Yeah, I agree completely. I've always liked Bullock a lot. I remember seeing her even way back in Love Potion #9 and thinking she had an it factor that was better than that movie.
You were right.
I knew when I saw her in Demolition Man, she'd be something. And she really goes far with that image that she is so likable that you could kick back and have a beer with her, you know, and just chat and not feel in the shadow of a star. And so she rode that a long time, but she's been picking less commercial projects lately. She did The Blind Side, got the Oscar. She did Gravity, which is a great film, but it doesn't have summer movie painted on it.
Yeah, she did that awful 9/11 movie with Tom Hanks. Don't see that.
I've heard bad things.
Incredibly bad and incredibly close, whatever it was called. Yes, oof, dog shit. But, you know, my point is you need someone likable here because if you're going to see a con artist, that can rub you the wrong way. If you don't instantly like the person and you see them taking advantage of the system, robbing stores and cheating people out of hotel room money, all of that, it could rub you wrong. But I like her and I don't mind the fact that emerging out of prison, she's instantly on the graph. She gives a lie to her parole officer. She's immediately back on the take. She's been plotting for all her 5 years of prison on doing what she's about to do.
I am worried that we're going to see an uptick in female crime because I'm watching this with my wife and you get to that scene where she takes some stuff off the shelf and then she tries to return it. And they're like, we won't take that. You'll have to leave. And she's like, okay, I'll just leave with all my stuff. My wife's like, that's a good one. I got to try that. I'm like, please don't try it. I don't want to have to post bail.
Yeah, that is a pretty good scam. And having had to return stuff without receipts, I know that uphill battle. And yeah, I guess you could just walk out of certain stores like that. But she is likable. Now, I am going to propose a drinking game, though. Take a shot when this is on home video. Don't take like a bottle into the theater. Take a shot every time you think Sandra Bullock's eyebrows should move and they never do. I was fixated by the stationary eyebrows. Even Cate Blanchett's eyebrows wiggle a little. But Sandra Bullock is very stone-faced in this film.
It's called Botox, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I was blown away by her hair. I'm like, damn, prison got a good hairdresser because you just came out with some lit hair.
Oh, that entire outfit she walks out in. And being a movie about women, I know how women are about their size.
I'm trying not to be sexist, but this
No.
is a movie about women, so I'm trying not to draw on those stereotypes, though. But
Right, but I read about Anne Hathaway, who talked about coming in her post-baby body, and Anne Hathaway feeling like she was a whale on this set. And I've seen her in this movie now. She does not look like a whale. So when I'm thinking with these things in my mind, I'm like, well, she still fit into that dress she did 5 years before prison. She still looks banging in it. And she walks right out of there looking like she's about to go for a night on the town. I think it's more nightclub dress than shopping dress, but it works for her to grift a hotel room and get some makeup. You see, that's another female thing, right? I'm trying not to stereotype, but what does she immediately steal? Lipstick, perfume.
and that's where I'm at, because, like, money, that's a universal thing. Everyone needs money. I'm like, oh, they're doing the female thing, and they're getting makeup, and I don't want to come off the wrong way. Am I seeing too much of it because it's a female group, or, I want realistic characters. So I'm going to try to just focus on how these characters are written.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes, particularly if something is all female, we tend to think of, well, there must be a feminist message here. I don't think there really is. This is about just giving female actresses more time on screen, letting them play, letting them have fun like the boys did. But I don't see that these characters are going to be drawing on stronger images of women. These are no icons. In many cases, these are rather thin characters here. I think a lot of times they're underdeveloped. I wish that I was watching this at home so that I could pause. Because at one point early on here, she's in her fancy hotel room. She's taking a bubble bath. She's holding a list of 14 items. And I wish I understood or could go back after having seen the movie and go point by point to see what they are. They're codes. She says BFF, Uncle Monty. I got the first couple, but I don't see correlations with what she does for the rest of the movie.
I said before we got in this movie, why is this not Oceans 14? That would make sense after Oceans 13. And then I saw that list. I'm like, damn, they're going to address my concern that there's not 14 people in this. No, not really. Like, she'll look at that list later on. But yeah, I didn't know if it was a to-do list, a list of people she needed for this heist.
That's what I was thinking, the exact same thing. I thought it might be a name of people that she was going to call. And yeah, I saw 14. I'm like, well, no, there's supposed to be 8. And when we get back to it later, this was the code she gave herself for how to pull this heist, because she's been planning it the whole time she was in prison. She was sent to solitary, we're going to find out. And she realized that she just could chew over 18 different ways how to do this. One of her first stops when she gets out, though, is her brother's grave. That's where we get to see a returning character come out from the shadows. He was hanging out behind a corner. For how long was he hanging out there?
Probably ever since making Oceans 13. I mean, who cares about Elliot Gould at this point? It's not the 70s anymore. We didn't even care about him in those Clooney movies.
But he's there to say, Danny doesn't want you to do this. Isn't it enough just to know that it would work? And she's spent 5 years just planning this scheme.
It's not the kind of scheme that would take 5 years to plan. I don't know what she did for the other 4 years, because this thing, it's not as complicated as you would expect. And I guess they're telling us that with the reduced number, because it doesn't take 11 people. And in fact, I don't even think you need 8 people. I think she could have probably pulled it off with 5. She calls on some of them because of her friend. I don't think she really needed Cate Blanchett, who ends up just poisoning some soup. But they are such a good pairing together, and I do like Cate Blanchett, and she just has a good vibe with Bullet.
Do they plan galas this far in advance? She's been doing this for 5 years. She had to know this was coming.
Well, it's the annual Met Gala. They do this every single year, and it's a real event.
Oh, okay. But the crown jewels and all that, I guess they do this with all these Oceans films. There's a lot of convenient things that just happen.
Absolutely.
All right. When we talk about Debbie and Lou, I have to ask, because I got this impression. Were they lovers at one point?
I think they talk about experimentation in college. We clearly see that Sandra Bullock has been with men, was burned by a man, is planning this heist around getting back at that man. But yeah, I do think there's an interesting energy between them that's sexual. I don't know if it's all in my mind or not, but I imagined it. I imagined that these two would hook up and have fun.
The thing that got me is, first of all, obviously Cate Blanchett is playing Lou as a lesbian, but At one point, Tammy, Sarah Paulson, is asking Debbie, how'd this happen?